It's great to be back with you again. And like good Presbyterians, you're all sitting in the back, so I'm going to have to come and get you. We're going to, the first thing we're going to immediately do is talk about the title of this time that we have together today. And that is to talk about what do we need to let go of. So what we need to let go of, very first thing, is the title in the program that says this is about life cycle for congregations. So everybody take a deep breath. Let go. All right, good. We've let go of that. And so we're going to be talking about how this works in the transformational cycle and how congregations need to think about letting go. Now, as you remember, last time we were together, we talked about transformation being a U. A lot of people think that congregational transformation is about adding things, but transformation is really about subtracting things. It means letting go of things that we used to always think about, always do, and think about doing something new. You can't become something new as long as you're still dragging the old stuff in with you. So as you recall, we talked real briefly. If you were an alcoholic, what would you have to let go of in order to transform your life? What else? Friends. What else? Some of your behaviors. What else? That's it? The places you hang out. All those kinds of things. Environmentally, you have to let go of in order to transform your life. Can you just switch to beer to transform your life? No, you can't. You've got to let go. And transformation occurs that way. And we talked about the biblical cases. Remember the children of Israel on the Exodus. When they had to leave Egypt in order to get to the promised land. What did they let go of when they left Egypt? Security, a roof over their head, 3 meals a day, all those kinds of things they had to let go of in order to go to a new place. Think about Abraham and Sarah. What did they have to let go of in order to become father and mother of a great new nation? Everything. Yeah, they let go of their home, they let go of their family, they packed up everything and moved to a new place. And Sarah, a little bit later on, has to let go of the idea that a 90-year-old lady can't have a baby. You know, there's all kinds of things that you have to let go of in order to become something new. Remember the rich young ruler that comes to Jesus, and he says to him, what do I have to do to have eternal life? Jesus says what? Sell all you have and follow me. Could he do it? No, he didn't receive the transformation. So why is it the church always thinks we just need to add a visitor parking space, or we need to just do cookies and take them directly to visitors, or just add a program or hire a youth minister? We just think we got to add something in order to transform our churches. And the reality is, it's really an act about letting go. And so this is the process of the 7 stages of letting go. This is outlined in Theory U by Otto Scharmer, who's an MIT theorist and a German Buddhist, if you ever like to read German Buddhist stuff. And I think he really captured the story of Christian redemption by this theory. And basically the theory is, you have to let go in order to let something new come. And we're in a time in the life of the church, aren't we, where we need to be becoming something new. And so these are the 7 stages. You suspend judgment. I'm going to unpack these a little bit. You begin to redirect your focus about what you think success really is. Then the third thing you do is you let go. You come to that point, you say, you know, this is who we are, this is what we're like, we need to let go of some of this. You determine what you need to let go of, and then you let something new come through your imagination. It's a sensory type of process where you begin to imagine being and living in a new way, and then you work your way through crystallizing what that idea might look like, and then you begin to prototype. You just jump in with both feet, and you begin to live your life in a new way. You just try some things, even if they're wrong. And so when you're in the transformational process, it's not ready, aim, fire. It's ready, fire, aim. It's backwards from what you think. And I know, being a former Presbyterian, we love to aim, don't we? We like to have meetings, to set up meetings where we're going to talk about the next meeting. And so, you know, sometimes we like to spend a lot of time aiming for every minute of mission that we do. So I thought about this. Alan asked me the other day, he said, Rick, we like to talk about things that the church needs to think about letting go of. And I thought to myself, this is a wonderful cathartic experience for me. Nobody's ever asked me what they think they ought to let go of, because we do facilitating processes. You know, we don't tell people what they ought to let go of. We just help them think through it. And so what I'm going to do today is kind of help you think through maybe some of the things that we need to consider letting go of. I don't know if any of you are over 50 years of age. Anybody here over 50? Maybe one or two. I don't know if you know this, but the human brain, I've studied the brain quite a bit. My dad had a major stroke 40 years ago, so I got to really looking at brain functions and how we think and thought processes and all that kind of thing. Well, the human brain really seeks normalization the older we get. And the older we get, the more rigid we become. I know this isn't true for anybody in the room, but it just becomes that way. I know that when I pack my bag, I put everything in a certain place when I go on a trip. And if somebody messes with my system, I am totally screwed up, you know, because I have my way, and I get angry about it, because I've got my way, I want to do things. My wife one time went on a trip with me, and she stuck a great big huge tube of toothpaste in my bag, unknown to me, and I got like frisked by the TSA the next time I tried to take a flight because I still had that toothpaste in my bag, you know. It was like I was trying to do something. So we've got this voice of judgment in our heads the older we get, saying what's possible and what's not possible. We keep thinking about, you know, all the things that we've tried over the years, and we think just because we tried something 40 years ago, it isn't going to work because it didn't work 40 years ago. But times are different. Times have changed. People are different. And so one of the first things that we really need to kind of think about is this voice of judgment and what we might do about that. So here's some of the statements that are the voice of judgment that are in our head. These are some of the tapes that play. And tell me if you've ever heard this at a section meeting. That costs too much money for us to do. Have you ever had that? How do we know that? You know, with the world of nonprofits, for example, if it's a good idea, normally the money will follow. The money will come. But right off the bat, people are willing to kill an idea right off the bat saying it's going to cost too much money. In fact, I've been on committees before where we kill things because we think it's going to cost too much money and nobody can really tell you how much it's actually going to cost. You know, because nobody's ever really gotten to that point. There's not enough time. Well, guess what? We all have 24 hours a day. You know, maybe there is enough time if we stop doing some of the silly things that we're doing. You know, but yet at the same token, we believe there's too much time. Nobody will do it. How do we know that? Unless we ask. We don't know how. Now that's something. And just because we don't know how to do something doesn't mean we can't learn. I was working with a church in Texas not too long ago. They decided they wanted to do a coffee house ministry. And one of the first things we discovered, there wasn't anybody in the room that knew how to make a cup of coffee. You know? So one of the things that's important is to name that that's a technical skill that we need to develop. But there are people out there that can teach you how to make a cup of coffee. You know, you can do that. It's not something that's insurmountable. We might fail. How many of us are afraid of failure in our churches? Yeah. You know, I wasn't asking you really to put your hand up, but thanks, Bob, for that. You know, the thing is about it is we don't feel the freedom to fail. So a church oftentimes will think, gosh, if we spent $25 trying to do something and it failed, that would be the worst thing in the world, you know. That all world peace would end because we tried something and it didn't work. It might change us. That's a scary one. A scary one. And finally, we may engage new people who are different from us. That's oftentimes a big killer. It's often never spoken. It's never said out loud, but that's the voice of judgment that runs in our head. So one of the things that we probably need to think about letting go of is that voice of judgment in our head. Because through Christ, all things are possible. And so if we could just quit for a while, limiting our potential, limiting our imagination, I would think that would be something that would be of value to let go of. The second thing that I think we might want to consider letting go of is our assumptions about how things work in this world. I've got a little video here I want to show you that is going to help us get to the whole thing. Hey, you got to get down. Come on.
AmeriQuest Mortgage, proud sponsor of the NFL.
All the boys are calling crazy girl. I hope she sings this tonight. I know. Hey, Dad, pull over. We need gum.
I'm on it. Oh, honey? Here's some money.
What do we got here?
Hello. I'm her daddy.
Look at the cute dog.
Howdy, folks. We hope you've enjoyed your flight today. We're beginning our descent into...
Patient has a fractured fibula. Given him a mild sedative, so he can be able to go on tomorrow.
Daddy's gonna be so excited.
All good.
That killed him.
Paging Dr. Palmer, Dr. Barbara Palmer, dial 452.
So you can see what happens when you make assumptions about things, and you can see how we've been conditioned to make some assumptions. One of the things that's interesting, Peter Senge, who's also an MIT theorist, talks about the ways in which we organize our thought processes in our heads. And the top two parts of this pyramid are within our consciousness. The bottom two parts are in our subconscious. We don't really think about those very actively. So the bottom part is called mental models. And those mental models are the assumptions by which we operate under most of the time. And we rarely ever question the assumptions that we operate under. We just keep going and doing life day in and day out the same way. So, for example, the patatu, or the ones that are in your conscious, there might be an event. So in a church's life, it might be, okay, let's think about this for a minute. Church attendance was down this Sunday. The second part we do is look at trends. Gosh, church attendance has been going down for the last 20 years. You know, there's something going on. So then we get just a little bit below our subconscious, and we employ the systems that we normally put in place. What's the best system that a church does? What do we do over and over again? We appoint a committee. That's right. So worship attendance has been down a little bit. We notice it's been a trend. Let's appoint a committee. Now, if this committee does not begin to challenge the assumptions by which it's operating under, we're going to revert back to what we've always done before in the past. So, for example, one of the things that churches oftentimes do is they say, gosh, in the 1970s, we had a big youth program. What was different then? And they say, oh, what was different was we had a youth minister. They're not looking at the community or the age of the community, the context or anything like that. They say, we used to have a youth minister. Therefore, if we hire a youth minister, we will have an effective youth program again. Does that ever work? Not usually, because we're still the same old grouchy congregation we were before we hired a youth minister. And so that doesn't work. Or somebody will say, you know, really, what we need to do is play the organ louder, you know, because everybody loves organ music and they want to hear that. So let's just play it louder, get it into the community. Or we don't challenge the assumption about what people think about congregations in general. We think, gosh, you know, if all we did, you know, back in the 50s, we used to hand out brochures, inviting people to participate in our church. If we just hand out brochures again, then our neighbors will come and join us. Because we all know your neighbors are looking for a church home. Am I right? No, I'm not right. They're not. So unless we begin to challenge the underlying assumptions by which we're making decisions and some of the thought process that we're going through, then we're never going to receive any kind of transformation within our lives. The third thing that we need to think about is letting go of paradigms about how we measure success. We've been measuring success through a church growth model for many, many years, and it's time for us to let that go. So here's an awareness test. Let's see how well you do on this.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make?
Go!
The answer is 13. But did you see the moonwalking bear?
Go!
So, why didn't you see the bear? Why didn't you see the bear the first time? Or did anybody see the bear the first time? Yeah, somebody thought, yeah, there's a couple of smart alecks around here that saw the bear the first time. Why didn't you see the bear the first time, those of you that did? You were counting passes, weren't you? We redirected your focus to something else. And as long as your focus was redirected to something else, it's impossible to see what's going on around you. And one of the things that's kind of interesting is that there's just been a lot of changes that have gone on in our communities before. But we've always directed our focus internally at the church. We always redirect our focus to thinking about, okay, there must be something wrong with our pastor because worship attendance went down. Or there must be something wrong with us because worship attendance is down. Or there's something wrong with the way our denomination operates because worship attendance is down. And so we tend to want to blame things. So one of the things that's important to recognize in assumptions is how we measure success for a church. And I wish we had a lot more time to go through this, but I think most of the time we measure success by the number of people who come to church on Sunday morning. Am I right? Can I have an amen? Yeah. And so we say, gosh, that church down the street must really be successful because they have to have people park cars and they have to do all this kind of stuff. But you have that big church down the street that really isn't doing anything to connect people to God's mission. All it's doing is providing a nice worship experience for people for a while so they feel closer to God. There's some value in that. But maybe they're not connecting people to God's mission. And yet I've seen tiny churches make a huge difference. Where does it say in the Bible that a successful church is big? Is that in there anywhere? Yeah, that's the notion we've all been operating on for a long time. Where does it say that churches need to even have a building? In the Disciples of Christ, we have 1,000 new congregations since 2001. Only 5 of them have a building. The rest of them are worshiping in schools or nesting in other church buildings or doing other kinds of things like that. And many of them are very successful, in terms of what we would think of as success today because they're connecting people directly to God. And where does it say that churches need to have a lot of money? That stuff just isn't in there. And so one of the things I think we need to let go of is this whole church growth model as being the model for success. And get away from asking the 2 worst questions in the world. The 2 worst questions are, how do we get more people to come to church? And how do we get more money? If we could shift our conversations away from those 2 questions to thinking about some other things, I think the world would be much better. Like, how do we connect people to God's mission? How do we do something that transforms people's lives, the people that are participating within the life of our congregation, and other things like that. The third part, or the fourth thing that I think we need to think about letting go of, and this is going to get a little more active, and that is, and we're going to need the sound unit on the video on this one, and that is to look at how we go through change, and how we process change, and how we try to instrument change within our congregations. Most congregations start with the thought, we need to start with a session and work our way down to the congregation, rather than an empowerment model which starts from the grassroots and works its way up. And so I'm from the Pacific Northwest. I grew up in Seattle. In fact, I just got back from Seattle late last night. And I've got to tell you that those are my people out there. It's very different on the left coast, if you've ever been out there. It's very different in Washington State. It's where early pioneers went, and they couldn't go any further to get away from everybody else. And so they got all accumulated in Seattle. And I miss home a lot. I was there, I saw the Vortex again, and my strange friends, and it just reminded me so much of the place that I love dearly. There used to be a festival that I would go to every year called the Sasquatch Festival. And the Sasquatch Festival is held in eastern Washington. The Sasquatch is our state bird. And in eastern Washington, there's a place called Columbia Gorge. It's an outdoor amphitheater kind of thing. Sasquatch Festival is usually international music. A lot of eclectic musicians come together. I love music. My wife and I would go. We'd get the grandparents to take care of the kids. We'd camp and watch all these music festivals. It was just a wonderful experience. So anyhow, I was delighted to see that there's a video on YouTube about the Sasquatch Festival. And you probably may have seen this at a TED Talk, but I've got my own version of this that I'd like to do for you. And it's about how a guy transforms this complete process, or this complete concert for everybody that participates. So if you're gonna listen to my narration on this, and we'll have some fun. So here's the guy. He was listening to the music. He's sitting on the side of the hill there. You can't see the people that are doing the music. But he was just moved by the music so much that he could not contain himself. He got up and he started to move around. Now, if you look like this guy, it takes some courage to get up there and do that, doesn't it? He's up there and he's doing it. And he was really not a leader until this guy came. This guy is a follower. And he came down and he said, "Hey, let's dance. This is fun." And he was moved by the music too. Now, the leader didn't say, "You have to dance this way." He said, "Welcome. It's good to have you be a part of this." And together they're doing some great moves. If you look at there's the 100 things, they've got some great things that are going for them in terms of how they're doing it, and they're having a good time. Now, it's the follower that invites his friend to come and join them on this. And if you look at the people in the audience, they're pretty different to what's going on. And here comes Bill the beer man. He's got some moves of his own. He's got the backside thing coming up here. Watch this. Isn't that good? And they're having a great time. And the leader, he says, "Oh, welcome, Bill. It's good to see you." And the other guy says, "Hey, I didn't think you would join us. This is wonderful." And they're having a great time. Now, Bill has more friends that join them. And now the people in the audience are turning their attention away from the stage and looking at DJ booths, right? And they're seeing what they're doing and what's going on. And it appears that they're having fun. And so more and more people want to get involved in this. Now, the interesting thing is, if you watch a little bit longer, you're going to see Underpants Man come. He's going to come and join them as well, and they're going to have a great time. Now, look at the people flooding to this experience. Now, a few moments ago, these people were sitting on their backsides, indifferent to everything that was there. And now they're fully engaged in the process of what's happening. Let me ask you this. Can you see the leader anymore? He is buried in the middle of it. Is he out front telling people what to do? No, he's in the middle, participating. Now, let me ask you this. Did this get approved by session? Was there a committee that formed that started this whole thing? I mean, what happened here was somebody was empowered to do it. There goes Underpants Man. And they would transform this entire event from a passive thing that you sit and you listen to something that you fully participate in. I love this video clip because I just think it tells a tremendous truth. I got 5 words on the screen here. I want you to look at these 5 words and think about which of these 5 words has the most power for you. Which of these 5 words has the most power for you? Especially when you think about transformational leadership. Have you got it in your head? What we're going to do now is we're going to break into 5 groups. And we're going to do it in this room. And it's going to be crazy fun. All right? So hang in there with me.
Saved by the
Here we go. Just a second. Let's get some input from our different groups. Now, several of you have thought your word is far more important than the other people's word. So we look like what everybody really thought about it. This group over here is the courage group. I'd like to start with them because they're brave enough to start, right? So You need courage to step out of the box. So is it easier to keep things the same in a church than it is to move into a new direction? Absolutely. So it takes a little courage to move in a different direction. I mean, sometimes if you sing a new song in church, Aunt Helen's going to get mad at you. And you know that's going to happen. So it takes a little courage to stand up in the face of doing that. Now, can you have courage if you're not afraid of something? Think about it. What's the definition of courage? Courage is able to overcome fear, right? So there needs to be a little fear involved for it to be a courageous act. Otherwise, it's just an act, right? So if you think about it, you gotta have some fear in there. So what are the things that people fear in churches? What do they fear?
Taking a risk.
Taking a risk.
Because you might fail.
Because you might fail.
You might not know the outcome.
You can't predict the outcome.
Somebody might not like you.
All your money might be gone. Yeah.
People might leave.
People might leave. We might make somebody mad. You know, all those kinds of things are real fears that we have to face. I think sometimes there's a fear of power, a loss of power in a church. And I think that's probably when we get into congregational conflict, that's oftentimes the big thing that a lot of congregations are worried about is if we empower somebody or if we do something different, I'm going to lose control of what it is I am. And that's kind of not a helpful thing for the life of the church. So, what are some of the things you have to give up to be a courageous congregation? A few members. Probably so. Probably so.
A lot of money.
Maybe a lot of money. That's right. Have you ever heard of tyranny of the few? Concept tyranny of the few. Oftentimes churches are held hostage because they're concerned about what 2 or 3 people might do or think. And so those 2 or 3 people have way more power in the system than really they deserve. In fact, sometimes we think that the person that's the biggest donor to the church really is the biggest donor at all. And yet they hold us hostage to one thing after another in the life of the congregation because we're afraid that if we make them mad, they're going to leave. Now, if the church's purpose was to make everybody happy, then you're going to be operating under a lot of fear, aren't you? In terms of doing that. So letting go of fear is a really important thing. Let's go over to the dreamers for a minute. What was so good about your work?
If you don't have a dream, you can't do any of those other things.
Oh, so your work is better than their work. Okay. What else? You have to be able to think about, you have to have imagination in order to dream.
The ability to accept this imagination and the new ideas and say, well, not worry about if they get rejected.
Yeah.
What is, we're going to try something new.
We're going to try it. Even if it's wrong, we're going to try it.
We're not going to, we almost expect there's going to be some people who complain about it.
You
That's
can,
okay.
you can count on it, actually. Complain about it when you do something new. So the dreaming part, though, is having the imagination to think about it. What happens in a lot of church systems is we've chased all the dreamers out because we keep saying things like, our voice of judgment comes in, we keep saying things like, well, we tried that once 40 years ago, it didn't work, or, you know, we don't entertain new ideas. And so we don't allow for the free conversation to take place about imagination, about things. I love sentences that start with the word, I wonder. I wonder what it would look like if we tried, da-da-da, and just let people run with it. But instead what we do is we follow Robert's Rules of Order, and we limit the time that we can talk about things, and then if it's not in the budget, we have to form a committee to talk about it a little bit later on, and we kill the dreams. Now, let me ask you another question. You guys remember Martin Luther King's famous I Have a Dream speech? What were some of the things that he said in that speech? What were some of the things he dreamed about?
White children being able to appreciate each other.
Play together on the playground was the term that he used. So when he said that, it conjures up an image for you, doesn't it? Of a white child and a black child playing together on the playground. And people said to themselves, that's the kind of America we want to see. That's what we said. What would have happened if Martin Luther King, instead of saying that, said, I have a dream, and it's going to require us to do civil rights legislation, we're going to have equal housing, we're going to maybe have to do busing, all that kind of stuff. What would have happened to that speech? You'd have scared them all off. created symbols and images that were positive for the future. And so what do we do as churches? We write mission statements that take very little imagination, that look just like the mission statement of every other church that we've ever seen. What we ought to be doing is thinking about metaphors, images, dreams for the future, and encouraging people to do that. And unfortunately, sometimes our best church leaders are the least capable of doing that. And so what we've got to do is find ways to incorporate more people into the dreaming process and get that going. Good job. Let's give it up to the dreamers. They did good. This group in the middle thinks their word's better. Am I right?
No.
No, I don't think so.
We decided, some of us anyway, we're talking together, decided that they may be the least important because it needs all the others.
Oh, well, you just stole my thunder for the end of this. Okay, we'll give you $5 anyhow. So, what else? What was so good about the word inspire? Why did you guys gravitate to this word?
Somebody's inspiration causes things to happen.
So sometimes when somebody's inspired, people get kind of caught up in that kind of thing. What else? It's contagious. What else is so good about inspiring?
I like the allusion to the Holy Spirit. That would start with God.
That would start with God. Let me ask you this. What's different between the word inspire and motivate? What's different between inspiration and motivation?
Inspiration is from within.
It's
the spirit in us.
And what's motivation?
It's somebody
Telling you what to do, right?
You're going to do this, and then this will happen. We'll get this.
So let me ask you this. Don't we so much of the time try to motivate people in the church? We're constantly trying to motivate them to serve on a committee, motivate them to teach Sunday school, motivate them to do things, rather than fanning the flames of inspiration that reside within their hearts. And I think that's one of the key things that are important. And one of the things that's oftentimes missing within congregations is we don't work on the thing that we can do the very best job at, and that is inspire people. The people that come to church on Sunday morning, they already have an ember that's glowing within them. All we need to do is fan the flame and get that ember a little bit hotter, and they will do what God has called them to do. They want to connect to God. They want to be a part of God's peace in this world. And it's just allowing them the opportunity to do that. And so if we can do that through inspiration rather than motivation, I think we would be a lot further ahead. So we've got to let go, maybe, of trying to manipulate people into doing jobs we think they need to do. You know? Think about this. Have you ever recruited a Sunday school teacher before? Yeah. A lot of churches use the Kit Carson method of recruitment. You know how Kit Carson used to bag his buffalo in Wyoming? He would ride into the herd of buffalo with his horse and his gun and everything like that. The buffalo would all scatter, and he'd shoot the ones that were laying down on the ground. So that's how we recruit for Sunday school teachers. Somebody says, we need a junior high Sunday school teacher, and we're going to recruit, I'll be with my clipboard, and I'll be looking for people in the coffee hour. And you go down to coffee hour, people scatter, ready with the clipboard, and they bag the guy that couldn't get up off the couch, and he winds up having to teach junior high Sunday school, and we wonder why we came back to the church on Monday morning, he's got his underwear pulled up over his head, and a room's a mess, all that kind of stuff. So, enough said about that. Let's go to this group over here, the agility people. My goodness, look how much agility this group has. What's so good about your work? Oh, he's got it written down.
We decided that we need to be flexible and entrepreneurial as a church, and the new church, as it were, needs to adapt quickly. And things may only work for a short time, so we would look forward to changing and changing and changing.
Yes.
And furthermore, the Gospels portray ministries that are non-traditional church ministries, don't have buildings or budgets. And we would like to think that agility allows us to welcome more different kinds of people into our life.
Yes. Oh, that's fantastic. That's one of the best answers I've heard on this. The thing that's really fascinating about agility is that congregations do the same calendar year in and year out. Am I right? We follow the same thing. So, and the thing that I was a new church pastor for a long time. The thing that I couldn't get over is we do it once and somebody says, that was great, let's do it again next year. And that's the kiss of death for a lot of good things. Sometimes you get too much of a good thing. And then eventually you wind up 20 years later going, why are we doing this? And nobody can answer that question. We've institutionalized it. And so being flexible means not institutionalizing, but it means allowing things to change and to do different things. You know, and this is the other thing. People would say, well, we can't do that because we have the church bazaar that weekend. You know, why are we doing the church bazaar? You know, to make money, you know. But I think a lot of people would rather give money than to have a bazaar for it. Good answer on agility, keeping it entrepreneurial and being able to switch up and be more flexible to the needs of what's going on at the time. The last group here has been really good and patient. Is your word the best word? Of course it is. Of course it is, okay. They think they have the best word, I'm sure. What was so good about empowerment? Yes, sir.
You said, without actually saying the word, except back there with
courage.
You said with each group, empowerment.
Okay, don't quote me. I mean,
here's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Without empowerment, those people who have inspiration, who have the courage, who have the dreams, who have the agility, are not going to be able to do things without losing members, without difficulty in the church. If they are empowered to do that, the body comes together.
Good answer.
Yeah, no, you basically just said what I was going to say. I wanted to add though, like, so many times, like, we have people with courage and inspiration and agility and dreams, and we don't even give them permission to have things. Like, we just, and so for us, at least for me, empowerment was, everyone else has those things.
Yes.
Empowerment enables them to use those things that they have.
So what do you have to give up in order to empower? Power. And control, right? So, I once served a church, and we had a lady that visited our congregation, and she was on her second Sunday, and she volunteered to bring cookies to the coffee hour. And if you're a new church pastor, if somebody volunteers for anything, you are just thrilled to death, you know. And so, I was just excited this lady who had just started coming to the church volunteered to bring cookies to the coffee hour. And I got to that Sunday, and I was in the back of the sanctuary doing the benediction, and I heard an argument ensuing in the fellowship area. And I went to see what was going on, and one of the long-term members was giving her a lecture about how she'd set up the table wrong. You know, that the cookies were too close to the edge of the table, and then a child could come by and get an unauthorized cookie. This would be a horrible thing. All world peace would end if a kid got a cookie that they didn't need to have. And so we had a little conversation about that. But, you know, if you give somebody a job, if you give somebody the opportunity to do something, then we need to let them do it. And are they going to do it the same way you would always do it? And when they make a mistake, maybe, so what? Empowerment is about giving power away. And as I read the Gospels, that's a lot about what the Gospel is about. Okay, you thought you were off easy now. We're going to try something here that's going to be really kind of dangerous. And are you ready for this? Let's line up all the women on this side of the aisle and all the men on this side of the aisle facing each other, okay? Yeah, I'm going to get in trouble for this one. Let's see how even we are. And let's see how big a space this is. Since this is kind of a big room, I'm going to give some permission. If we're going to be dancing, and so if you have ambulatory issues and would like to sit down, we'll give you a pass. All right? And if you have a bad knee or something like that, you can go ahead and opt out. But you have to stay in the room. You have to sit down. You got to watch the rest of these people suffer. All right? Okay, let's spread chin together a little bit. And this is going to be hard, but you will be so grateful that you had this experience. I'm sure. Any of you have ever tried English line dancing before? Contra dancing, it's called. We're going to do a little contra dance, and this dance is called Old Drum. And Old Drum. And there's a story behind this, and let's see if you can figure out the story by the time we get done, all right? But first of all, let's teach you to dance. So if I can be you for just a minute, Robert, let's assume that Pat is my partner because she's the person across from me. Can you all see me okay? that is you fold your arms like this, and it's a do-si-do. Point your right shoulder. You're going to go right shoulder to right shoulder with your partner. So just Pat and I will do this. So we go right shoulder, and then we cross around the back like a do-si-do, and we come back. And then, that's the first command. And then the second command is do-si. When we say do-si, then I'm going to do-si with my corner, because I'm tired of my partner. Okay? And when you do-si, you don't hold your hands. This time you can do some flourish with your arms. So we're going to do-si. Right shoulder, and back. And this time when we end, I'm across from my new partner. All right? Now this is going to cause an issue for people at the end. The issue that's going to cause people at the end is you're going to be one person short at both ends. And that means you get to sit down. Okay? After that, when we get one person short. But not right now. So let's go through the first two commands and see if you can handle this. This is proud. Okay, bow to the partner. Bow to your corner. Grunt. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, you got to end up on the same side, and you got just 8 beats to do it. So let's try that again, a little bit slower. Grunt. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are too many of us. There are a few more people that would like to give up. You can give up. That's too many. Look at all the volunteers. Okay, let's bring it on down here. Bring it on down here. The few, the proud, the brave. Okay, here we go. Let's try it again. I knew this was going to be dangerous, all right? Okay, grunt. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Do-si. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, yeah, ladies, you got to end up on this side. I know you want to come over here, but stay over there, all right? So this is the next fun part. It's called balance and swing. So what you do is your balance is 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we swing for 8 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Legal woman on the woman's side, and you can do a flourish at the end. And then you got it. Okay, back to your original position. Now when you do the balance and swing, you're going to be one person short at that end, one person short at this end. You guys go ahead and sit down, and then we're going to walk through the first part again, and then I'll show you how we end this, okay? Whew, this is hard. Okay, great. Here we go. Bow to your partner. Bow to your corner. Rock. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do-si. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Balance. 1, 2, 3, 4. Swing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, now comes the fun part. This is considered the top. This is considered the top, and this is where we say top couple down. So who's the couple at the top? That's the two of you. Go ahead and hold hands, and you get to come down the whole length of this aisle and freestyle for us. All right? Sit down. See how this works? It gets smaller and smaller as we go on. So let's try it. Top couple down. And we all. Good job. Okay, let's walk through it. All the way through it. One more time. All right? I'm not dancing this time, so I'll get out of the way. Okay, you ready? Bow to your partner. Bow to the corner. Grunt. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do-si. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Balance. And swing. And mark time. because that would just be total chaos. Was there chaos in this room? And did you have fun? All right. I rest my case. You know, the point is, we can have chaos, we can have fun, and we can accomplish things too in the life of the church. How many of you have ever been to the birth of a baby? Coming into the world. Some of you were actually active participants in doing it. As I thought about that as I thought. You know, is birth clean and orderly, wonderful? No, there's a whole lot of screaming, there's stuff hitting the floor, you know. My wife just broke my arm. You know, we had twins last time, so that was really fun. And I got to tell you, there's a whole lot of screaming, there's a whole lot of gnashing of teeth, but at the end, something really beautiful comes out of that. And there's something of joy that you can share. That's what giving birth is. And all creation wants to give birth to this new life that God has for us. And we've got to find a way to allow that to happen. What I'd like you to do now is be in groups of about 4 or 5 people, and you kind of, it's a good thing some of your heads swivel all the way around so you can face people behind you and do whatever you want to. And I'd like for you to, we're going to practice Lectrodemina for a few minutes. So this is the way this works. It's, and there's 3 times that you read this passage. So you need to be in groups of at least 4. Let's get you into groups first, and then I'll give you your instructions, all right? We'll see how this goes together.
Thank you, Richard.
There's 4 right there. 4 or 5. No more than 5. Okay.
I'm not invited to too. Dave, you want to join in?
You're not invited?
I am. Well, he said 4 or 5.
Okay.
Now we're here.
Congratulations for getting in groups of 4 or 5. That's the easy part now. What we're going to do is we're going to practice reading the scripture together and do it like with me. And so this is the way this is going to work. One of the problems is we talk too much and we don't listen enough to God. And this is an exercise in listening to God. And I really love this because I'm a flaming extrovert, and this is the kind of exercise that I need for my own personal disciplines. So what you're going to do is, when I say go, the first person in your group is going to read this passage of scripture. This is from the Message version of the Bible. It's the Great Commission. And what I want you to do is, when you get to the first person will read it out loud, and while that person is reading, I want you to think in your head, not with your mouth, but in your head, think, what is going on in this passage? The first person that reads. Then we're going to pause for 30 seconds, and then I'll give a note on the piano. When you hear a note, then the second person reads the passage of scripture. You haven't talked about it. You just move to the second person. The second person reads the scripture all the way through, and then when we get good, while they're reading, you're thinking about what are the key words and phrases that seem to leap out as I'm listening to it the second time. And then we'll pause for 30 seconds, and you'll hear a note on the piano again, and the third person reads the entire passage again. And the third time it is read, you are thinking in your head, what would our church look like if we took this seriously? What would our church look like if we took it seriously? And then there's another 30-second pause, and then you'll hear a note on the piano, and after that third note on the piano, then you're going to have a chance to talk about what God has said to you in reading this passage. What is it that your heart is telling you about what God is saying in this? So figure out who your first, second, or third reader are. You got that figured out?
What is going on?
Okay. Is everybody quiet?
Are you going to read first?
Okay, wait, we're ready.
You want to read?
Okay, first person to read. Go.
What did the nominal Luther say?
You guys have fun? Some of you are just Presbytery name, not mine. I know. So, what were some of the key words and phrases that seem to emerge? What are some of the key words and phrases?
Go.
Go.
Everyone.
Everyone. Not just upper, white, middle class. Okay. Everyone. What else? Train.
Command.
Command.
Sunday church.
a lifestyle. Being a Christian or a follower of Jesus isn't something you choose to volunteer for. It's something that is a lifestyle. It's a way you live your life. It permeates every aspect of life. So what would it look like if the church lived by this passage? What were some of the things people thought? We were to take this seriously. Huh?
We would be outside of these walls.
We'd be outside the walls, wouldn't we?
Dancing in the parking lot.
We'd be dancing in the parking lot instead of trying to do it in this little narrow aisle. Yeah. What else? What do we do to help people mature in faith? What are some of the things we do to help people mature in faith?
Disciple, friend.
Yeah, disciple. What else? How do we do it?
Practice.
By practice?
Demonstrate.
Demonstrate?
Get to know them.
Get to know them? Yeah.
I think a good focused practice reflection model is an excellent.
Focus, practice, reflection. I think there's really three areas that every church needs to really think about. And oftentimes we shortchange one for the other two. If you took a good strong look at each church, you'll see we do really good at one of the three. So one is build relationships with each other. If you don't build relationships with each other, how are people going to learn trust? How are we going to learn that this person does these exciting things with their lives and that, we made a big difference because of that? So building relationship is really very important. A lot of congregations spend a lot of time developing relationship and not doing the other two. The other two, the second one is missional engagement. It's actually giving people the chance to practice their faith missionally in the life of their community and in the world. Not in the church, in the life of the community and in the world. Doing things. I've got a lady at my church named Mary Grabanowski. She's always the person that is trying to get people to practice their faith. And one week, we were doing our habitat bill as a church. It was our week to volunteer as a church. And Mary found out I had Friday off. I had a Friday off. I hadn't had a day off all month. I was looking forward to having a day off. And I knew Mary was looking for volunteers because she had the footboard out. She was running around the coffee hour. And I was really doing a good job. In fact, at one point, I found myself standing in the coat closet so she couldn't see me. And I let my guard down for just 1 minute, and I felt her tap on my shoulder, and oh, crap. And so she already had my name written down on the list. And she said, I talked to your wife, I found out you got Friday off, so we'll see you at the habitat bill. And I'm like, oh, come on, Mary, give me a break. I want to sleep in, all that kind of stuff. I went to the habitat bill that morning, and of course it had been raining all night. And I'm from the Northwest, and so the mud here in Indiana is something that's a new experience for me. But I don't know if you realize it, but when you stick a shovel in the mud, it sticks to both sides of the shovel, and it just gets heavier and heavier as the whole day goes on. My job at the habitat bill was to shovel mud away from the foundation of the house, and to get that ready for the construction crew to come in the next day so they wouldn't get dirty. So I'm walking around in the mud, and my feet are getting caked and more mud. I could hardly lift my feet up by the end of the day. The shovel was getting heavier and heavier. I was miserable. And I was thinking to myself, not very kind thoughts about Mary Grabanowski. Should have stayed in the closet. I should have stayed in the closet. And so at noontime, they started feeding us lunch. And the guy serving lunch was the guy that was going to own the house. He was the guy we were building the house for. He was a young man. He was like in his early 30s. He had twin girls that were 4 years old. His wife was an alcoholic and drank them out of all their money. They were basically starting life over again. And I looked at this young man, we talked for a while, and here's a guy that's just doing his level best to get by in this life, to get by in this world. And it dawned on me for a moment that what I was doing, shoveling mud, was just as important as any other spiritual practice that I do during the course of the week. Just as important as prayer, just as important as taking an offering or doing anything like that. And so I was happy about Mary Grabanowski by the time I got done because I learned something about this guy. And I felt like it was really a valuable experience for me. That's how we learn the faith, is by doing. We learn it by experiencing it firsthand. So the second area is missional engagement. The first area is relational. And then the third area is educational. It's the training part of the scripture. A lot of times we just assume that because you're a member of a church, you know everything you need to know about the faith. Whitewater.
Self-consciousness about discussing our religion.
Yeah, that'd be a good one, yeah. Think about it. I think there's a difference, because what we're talking about, when we talk about this way of life, is we're talking about vocation. We're not talking about volunteers. There's a real difference with how you treat a volunteer and how you treat somebody who's living out their vocation in life. And if we think about it, a lot of times we think about churches as getting people to volunteer for stuff. And this isn't volunteerism. If you are living this way of life, you don't have a choice. It's your calling. It's how you live your life. So if you're a volunteer, you choose what you're going to do. If you're living as a disciple, it's your vocation. It's your calling. You don't have a choice. When you're a volunteer, you do service to the community rather than doing service with the community. Have you ever seen a feeding program that churches do? I go to them all the time. I was up in Canada at the Presbytery church up in Halifax, and they had a feeding ministry. And I was really excited, and I volunteered to work with them that day in the feeding ministry, and I was bored because all the people in this church stood on one side of the counter and slopped food onto the trays and handed it to people, and all the homeless people went and sat down at the tables by themselves. They weren't mixing it up. They were doing ministry to that group of people, not ministry with, in terms of doing that. With volunteers, it's a luxury. If I have time, I can do it. But if it's your vocation, it's your way of life. If you're a volunteer, you can drop in and drop out. But if you're a disciple, you're doing it for whenever you see the least things. You don't have a choice. It's what you were called to do. And with volunteers, it's about doing a good deed. But with your disciple, you're doing it through the lens of faith. I think it's really important that we let go of the thought that we're asking people to volunteer in the life of the church and start thinking about the fact that we're asking them to live out their vocation, to live out the call that they accepted early in life, and to help and challenge them to live out that call. So, in your same group that you did like with me, I'd like you to have this conversation. What does our church do to help and form people who can be disciples of Jesus Christ? Second question is, do we fill positions in our church, or do we form disciples? And then I want you to get personal. What do you remember about your baptism or confirmation or your communicus class, any of that kind of stuff, when you were making a formative decision to live out your call as an individual? And does your baptism mean anything to you today? I'm going to give you about 10 minutes for that conversation to go. Thank you. So, let me ask you this question. When was the last time you talked about your calling to somebody? When was the last time you talked about your calling to somebody?
Yesterday.
Anybody think that? I mean, if you're a pastor, people say, well, I'm in the ministry, you know. They ask you that all the time. But, you know, I don't think we talk enough about this. I don't think we talk about those formative years in our life when we made that decision that our faith was going to do something with us, that it was going to be with us. How many of you can remember your baptism? You can. That's good. I can't remember mine. I was baptized as an infant. Quite young when I was baptized. But I can't ever think of a time where I didn't believe in God. I can't ever think of a time when God wasn't part of my life. And so, I don't feel bad about that. Yeah. I shouldn't be? Well, thank you, Beth. No, that's good. Because this is all about me. So I think it's important for us to think about that. But thinking about the meaning behind that commitment that we made in our life, I think is an essential part of what we need to talk about as people that are engaged in this way of life. Where did we start this way of life? And where has it taken us since? I think one of the richest experiences I ever had in the church was in Dallas. There was a congregation that had like 6 people that turned 90 one year. And they had a potluck dinner for the 90-year-olds in their congregation. They put them on the head table, they had a big to-do about it, and they just moved it up really good for these 90-year-olds. And then they did something that just scared me to death. They handed them each a microphone. And they asked them to tell us about what their faith has meant to them in their life. I thought, oh my God, we are going to be here all night. It's going to go on, it's going to be rambling. And it was one of the most fascinating conversations I think I ever heard. Now I got to thinking at the end of that, what organization on the face of the planet would ever hand a 90-year-old microphone other than the church? And who would have the patience to sit and is how we're going to grow and shape our faith. So I think there's some things that we need to think about letting go of. The first thing is the voice of judgment that's in our head that says things can't be done. The second thing I think we need to get rid of and let go of is assumptions about what makes things work. Because really what used to work in the 1950s and the 60s and the 70s isn't working anymore. And so a lot of the assumptions and the underlying things that were going on no longer are prevalent in our culture, in our society today. So we've got to let go of some of the assumptions that are really holding us back. I think the third thing that we need to let go of is assumptions about what makes a church successful. And that is, what is our scorecard for success? What does it really look like if we're really being a faithful congregation, a vital congregation for the sake of God's mission and the face of the plan? I think we need to let go of meetings as a way of creating change and start thinking about empowerment as a way of creating change within our systems and within our congregations. And I think we need to let go of the structures that require volunteers instead of allowing people to live their lives out and live out their vocation. That's not a complete list, is it? But it's a start of a list. So I'd like you in your groups for 2 more minutes to talk about what is missing. What is missing that we need to let go of? What is it? What is one more thing, or 2 more things that we really need to think about letting go of?
If they are actually doing it.
All right, there's a great conversation going on. We're going to continue this. Let's popcorn style. Just a few things. What are some of the things that you think should have been on this list? Things that we might want to consider letting go of? I think you should go up to your neighbor and say, you're